Amy Nelson is somebody who has experienced the collusion between big government and big business pretty much like no one else that I know. Amazon made claims that her husband did something illegal, although they were never told what that charge was supposed to be. They met with the Department of Justice over and over and over again and tried to convince the Department of Justice to charge him with a crime. They never did. Yet the Justice Department came in and took every penny they had, took their bank accounts, went as far as, I think, taking his father or his father-in-law's bank account, took all of her bank accounts that were just in her name. The family was left penniless. They decided to fight. It's not over yet, believe it or not. This began while COVID was happening. And it could happen to anyone. So, all these victims, they're not necessarily, MAGA people or even Republicans. Amy, who I find delightful, was a bundler for Barack Obama. So there wasn't a political reason. There was a reason, and the reason is Amazon was trying to avoid a $100 million judgment or penalty against them on something else. So they cooked the books and tried to make, at least that's what it appears to be, that they cooked the books and tried to make Amy's husband the scapegoat. Why spend $100 million when you could destroy this one guy for maybe 10 and you save $90 million? Amy Nelson. Do I have the story kind of accurate in a summary, Amy?
You really do. It's pretty remarkable, Glenn, because it's a long story and can be complicated.
So I so appreciate you coming on the program, and I appreciate the fact that you and your husband, with 4 children, you had to sell anything that you were left with. You had to sell the house because you couldn't make the mortgage payments. You didn't even know how you were going to feed your family, but you moved in with relatives, right?
We did. I mean, we early on, look, I think, when my husband was accused of a crime, it was totally shocking to us. We had no idea where this was coming from. And we also, I'm a lawyer, but I had been a civil lawyer. I didn't really know a lot about criminal law. And so we just were in this position where we were trying to learn as we went. And we were just making decision after decision to try to stay alive and be able to fight. I didn't even know civil forfeiture was a thing in America, to be honest. I didn't know that.
Maybe you shouldn't have been bundling for Obama, because we talked about it on my show.
Maybe I should have been listening to you.
Maybe. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. I know it is like, it is like, it's definitely, I think this is really, for my own politics, been hard. Yeah, it's been an awakening. And for me, really, I look at it and kind of the incentives. Like, why would these prosecutors help Amazon? And I think the answer isn't that complicated. I think most prosecutors leave the federal, leave the Department of Justice, and they go work in private practice. And who's going to hire them, me or Amazon? Amazon is, right? So, I think like the revolving door in Washington is really what I've been thinking a lot about.
I have not, I didn't know the numbers. The numbers you threw out last night on the special were pretty staggering about the number of FBI prosecutors and DOJ officials that are being hired by Amazon. Why would they need all of those people? But I think because of your experience, we know why they are.
Well, I think part of it is, I think they want to have a close relationship to the Department of Justice because the intelligence community is Amazon Web Services' biggest client, right? So the more of a relationship they have, the more likely they're to continue making a profit from selling products to the government. But I also think, and this is just my opinion, but if you have a Department of Justice that is focused on antitrust and thinking about breaking Amazon up, antitrust falls within the Department of Justice. So if you're like, no, we're your friends. You like us. We're your colleagues. That's a better look than having the Department of Justice come at you for antitrust.
Right. So did you get your money back yet?
We did, actually. So we got our money back in February of 2022. So just as the government held our money for 20 months. So for 20 months, we had to figure out.
Hang on just a second. Closed your bank accounts, closed your credit card so you couldn't use your credit cards, took your money out of your accounts. I mean, it was all of it. You had no way to buy anything, correct?
I mean, we didn't, other than the fact that we were both still working. So after they took everything at a certain date, and then we kept working. I will say both Carl and I lost work because of this, because it's a very sensational public allegation.
Sure.
Which is hard for me, right? Because I'm not accused of anything.
Right.
And it's not fair that it impacted my husband either. But
did you lose friends?
We did, and that was really hard too. I mean, I remember once I accidentally got a text from a woman talking about me that wasn't meant for me. Oof. And it was someone I thought was a business colleague and a friend. But, I did lose friends and Carl lost friends, but we also figured out who our friends were.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about going through something like this, but we have been surrounded by so much love and, we have faith. And so that's really helped get us through this.
So you said that you've seen the effects, and not just in your story, but take us down the road of this collusion between the government and Amazon.
Yeah, so, in my own kind of deep search for how the hell did this happen, yeah. I was figuring out, kind of looking into the relationship between Amazon and the Department of Justice. And I was the one, I just figured out by going on LinkedIn how many people they were hiring from the Department of Justice. But then I started looking around on the Department of Justice website and was able to piece together that over a 2-year period, Amazon had referred over 36 criminal investigations to the Department of Justice. And I thought, is that normal? And I went around and looked, and with Walmart, one of the other largest companies in America, it was 2.
Wow.
And that's just stunning to me.
Wow. And they also have, I remember in 2008, I had a call from a guy who was in Amazon, and he was overseeing some of their server sites. And if I'm not mistaken, he had something to do with security. And he called me up off the air and he said, Glenn, whatever our federal government is doing with Amazon, this is not going to work out well. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, there's a 10-foot trench just outside of our fences that's 10 feet down, goes all the way around our fences of our servers. They're putting in all kinds of monitoring to make sure that nobody penetrates that. He said, we're starting to partner with the government on information. This can't be good.
I mean, I don't see how you can't think that they are partnering at this point, right? I mean, you have, the FBI and the CIA and the NSA, they hire Amazon Web Services to hold the government's secrets in their data warehouses. And it just seems like something the government should be doing on their own, not relying on a private company, particularly one that, is owned by a billionaire who owns media companies.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. And isn't the former NSA director on their board or?
Yes. The former head of the National Security Agency is on the corporate board of Amazon.com, as is a lawyer named Jamie Gorelick, who works for a private law firm, but who previously was the Deputy Attorney General for the United States, and she mentored Merrick Garland. It's all just too close for comfort for me, personally.
I mean, honestly, and I don't mean to, I'm not joking about this. I mean this sincerely. Liberals were right about one thing and conservatives were wrong. You should worry about these giant corporations. I always thought that was crazy because who would want to say, who's out there building a business? Well, I want the government more involved in my business. I never thought that would happen, but the liberals were absolutely right. I just don't know why they don't see it now.
It is something I think about all the time, Glenn, in that, you made a good point on your show the other night talking about how about putting someone in prison, Steve Bannon in prison for defying Congress when no one's done that in 60 years. Yeah. And I see on the progressive side people being gleeful about it. But what I want to say to progressives is, this can set a precedent. And so when it's a Republican in charge, they can do the same thing, and you won't be very gleeful about it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't look at our constitutional rights as partisan things. We should hold them dear for all of us, regardless of our politics. And I think we've lost that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, and I don't know why.
I do. You should listen to me some more. So
I will. I have been. I'm a fan now.
So Amy, what is the biggest thing you learned out of this that you feel you should pass on to other people? What should they know?
And the thing I want to pass on to other people is that, if you are accused of something that you didn't do, particularly by people who seem to have more power and more money, a lot of people will tell you to be quiet. But I think that's wrong. I think the only way to hold power accountable is to speak out. And I think you're safer when you do speak out too. And so I would encourage people, if they are being deprived of their rights, if they are being accused of something they didn't do, to try to talk about it, to try to get people to listen, because that's the only way, I think, to protect yourself and to drive change and to make sure it can't happen to other people. Because if Amazon can do this, it's a playbook for every corporation in America.
Oh, yeah.
And that is terrifying.
Amy, were you concerned at all about retaliation for being on the show or continuing to speak out on this?
I am, but I also will say, Glenn, that Jeff Bezos is out there publicly saying he hires like Gavin DeBecker, who's a former, I think, spook, really, for his personal security.
Hang on. I've had Gavin DeBecker as my personal security for a while. They're not anymore, but yeah, I know.
But, it's terrifying, but I do feel safer speaking out publicly. I actually found out last night because I use social media a lot. And Andy Jassy, who's the CEO of Amazon, we have a number of friends in common. I mean, I personally know Amazon's general counsel, David Sapolsky, which has made all of this, more painful for me. However, I did find out last night that Andy Jassy blocked me on Facebook. I'm just this mom in Ohio, and the CEO of Amazon, $1 trillion company, is personally blocking me on Facebook.
That's fantastic. Amy, thank you so much. You go back to court, I think, in January, right? Or is it?
So Carl's trial, my husband's civil trial with Amazon, is in May. So
okay.
I'm very much looking forward to getting this over with.
I bet. And we can't wait to talk to you and celebrate with you when you win. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
All right.